the season to burn. Prospect Pro Wrestling, December 8th, has reached out to me with an invitation to raise some hell of my own. Even though the fans at 2PW aren't even worth my time, my two opponents most certainly are. Felix Cause, Matthew Yeager. I have a long history with you both, and it's not that pleasant. But that's how I know this is gonna be fun. It's gonna be a bloodbath. And on a 5-year anniversary show of 2PW, a tribute show to a little girl. Even though she'll pull through this, I hope she's in attendance to see you two lying broken in a pool of your own blood. So she knows exactly that it was her fault. See you December 8th, kids.
Hey, that's right, Daddy. It's me, the manager champion, just finishing the shoot. Big news. EIW Reindeer Games, December 15th, Daddy. You want some hardcore extreme sports entertainment? Come and check out Billy Knox. How about G Green, Daddy? And you can't.
Welcome to the Kill City Cup. I got the world by the balls.
Boogaloo! Another wonderful WrestleRoni for me and for you. Brought to you by the Kill City Cup, of course. Check it out as soon as you get done with this interview. Joining me today for the holiday season. What an appropriate time to have the man on. We've got Adam Hex. How you feeling, my man?
Oh, feeling absolutely delightful.
Good God. We've had some weird ones, and I'm about it. I'm about something different, and I think it's going to be one of those episodes today. Glad to have you. How we feeling, my man?
Oh, fantastic. Now that the holiday season is upon us, I look forward to ruining people's moods.
Damn. Speaking of which, I'm glad you said that. I watched you just this past Friday live on IndieWrestling.us, 2PW. I know you was in there with my man, oh man, come on, Matthew Yeager was in there. You had the Kabasi Cat, Felix Cause, and there was they even added somebody else to the match. What can you tell me about 2PW in this past Friday?
Well, they're definitely well put together. Like, we did a charitable event for a little girl with cancer, which was actually kind of pleasant, I can't lie, to do things for a good cause. But that damn spider monkey Jaeger kicked me in the back of the head, and I'm about to rip his leg off because of it.
Okay, I gotta admit, I'm quite the fan of Matthew Yeager. What can and I know you know the man just about as well as anybody. What can you tell me about him?
I appreciate his presence. He's definitely a bar that I strive and make myself go to be better, because as soon as I saw him, I knew who my competition was, whether I like him or whether I hate him, and it's the latter, trust me. The fact is, he started the same time as me, and he's already good enough to be on Ring of Honor, and that pisses me off.
I understand. You're making waves, though. All you guys. This past year, watching the Pittsburgh scene, the Southern Pennsylvania scene, in my opinion, it's never looked better. Tell me from the inside. You're up there. You know what's going on. What are you seeing going on up in Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas?
It's filled with stars and competition. I can tell you that, from Duke Davis, big time Bill Collier, all the way down to the rookies that you just mentioned of Felix Cause and Matthew Yeager. It's just endless opportunities to get better, cause mayhem, and get stronger.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, let's go ahead and get into that. How did you find your way into this crazy scene?
Well, I've always wanted to find a way in to cause as much destruction as I could, and one day I seemed to just stumble upon the right place and right time, and Elijah Dean and Zach Nystrom took a liking to me, and they put their nose to the grindstone to teach me what I know, along with Katie Arquette, so I've learned from three of the best.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, that's three names that's definitely, they've definitely proven themselves if anybody has. That's awesome. What can you tell me about the training? They put you through hell? Were they understanding? I don't know. What can you tell me about these trainers?
Well, anybody that knows those three wrestlers know that they're not to be taken lightly, and you never know what they're saying is them being nice or them being themselves. But the fact is, I appreciate who they are because they don't sugarcoat anything. If you suck, they're going to tell you you suck, but they're not going to stop until you are better than you ever have been. So if anyone gets training under those three, you're in good hands.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I dig it. Well, let's talk about Adam Hex. How'd we come up with the persona? Where's it all come from?
This is pretty much me. I'm just not filtered. I've finally found a world where I can be myself. I am from a very small, overly religious, hypocritical area where people try to live in the light, but it's just as I said. They are against everything they stand for. And me, I've never been one to worship a false light. I find the darkness more beautiful than anything. So I be myself, and I decide to let the beast loose, and not a lot of people like that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, I get where you're coming from. Me, hey, I'm a fairly religious dude, but I couldn't go to church because of all the hypocritical people and the crazy, they were the meanest people in the world at that church. So I kind of get where you're coming from. So it kind of, let me ask you this. Is it the teachings or the people that kind of made you this way?
A little bit of everybody, because even people who aren't the every Sunday going churchgoers tend to follow the crowd, tend to put everyone else down. So I decided, these people want to make me a monster. I'll just give them what they ask for.
There you go. I dig it. Okay. Hey, be you. Be you. Have you found that so far in the wrestling business that promoters, trainers, fans, etc. have allowed you to be you?
Oh, absolutely. If anything, they want more of me. And the fact is, in the world of wrestling, people say you can be anything that you want to be, or you could put on a fake persona, and I don't agree with that whatsoever at all. I feel who you bring in the ring should be who you actually are. People call me sometimes fake, but anyone who knows me outside of wrestling knows this isn't much different than what I'm actually like.
I dig it. I dig it. And I'll tell you, one thing I always say, and it might rub folks the wrong way, I say wrestling can be anything you want it to be. So it sounds like you think you should represent yourself as the way you are. where's the line? Where's the line when it's too much that maybe you disagree with me? Wrestling can't be anything you want it to be. Where do we find the line?
Going into business for yourself and ruining things for people who are just trying to entertain the fans that come and see the show. If your real self carries on into wrestling, into a persona, and then you carry that persona's cockiness into your everyday life, I feel that's where you mess up. Because at the current moment, we're trying to strive to be the best. We're not on that top platform yet. So get your head out of your ass.
I dig it. I dig it. Have you saw a lot of that? Have you saw more bad than good? Or if you can, give me an example. Without naming names, of course. Or you can name names. I don't give a shit.
I haven't seen anything personally myself. IWC and Prospect Pro Wrestling people are pretty down to earth. I know there are people like that. And if should I ever meet any of those people, they're going to find a rude awakening. But everyone I've met so far and been in the ring with has stayed true to themselves in their message.
Good, good, cool. Well, let's put over some of the good guys that you see on the scene. It may not fit your character, but let's give some people their flowers. Who's doing it right? Who's some of the good folks up your way?
Oh, so many. I'll start off with the most fearsome of the bunch. I've already mentioned Duke Davis, Bill Collier, Gannon Jones Jr., Jamie Jameson, Katie Arquette, R.C. Dupree, Jack Pollock, Jason Argos. The list can just go on and on. Anyone that I'm on a card with is just an overwhelming talent that I can't wait to get in the ring with.
Have you crossed paths with those brotherly love guys? Because I tell you, those are some characters right there.
Oh, yeah. Like, they're definitely different. But at the same time, it's not easy to make me smile. They do a good job at it. And they came from being the underdogs to one of the longest reigning tag teams IWC has had with an undefeated streak. So, being some of the smallest guys in the game, they have some of the biggest hearts.
Yeah, for sure. And, hey, Ricky, we love you if you're watching. Hope you get better soon, man. Poor guy. Damn, I feel for Ricky.
Oh, yeah. I saw that, and I was like, damn, I wasn't even able to do that to him yet.
Yeah, you didn't get your chance. Yeah, he'll be back. You'll get your chance to rough him up sooner than later.
Until then, Mr. Cheese Whiz, rest well.
Yeah, rest up, Bubby. Take care of yourself for once. Hope to see you back soon. He comes down our way in RSW, former RSW tag team champion, him and Cliff Klepto. So props to them. Were you checking out indie shows before you got into the business?
Yes, slightly. I've spent most of my life putting my nose to the grindstone, so I didn't have much free time. But the first show I saw was IWC Unbreakable, I believe in 2021. And I saw Spencer Slade, Andrew Palace, and Bulk Nasty. And then right after that, I saw my two trainers, Elijah Dean, Zach Nystrom, take on TME, Duke Davis, and Gannon Jones Jr., and that's what fully ignited my love of indie wrestling.
No doubt, no doubt. I can't put over the Pittsburgh scene enough, whether it's IWC, we mentioned 2PW, even 880. Have you seen what MV Young and his students are doing up at T2T and 880 wrestling?
I have. In fact, I've known some people that have actually competed there, and I've meant to get out that way myself. But current opportunities keep coming my way, and I can't find a current time to get over there.
Right on, right on. I have to say, since we're on the subject anyway, I've got to give it to them. There's been a lot of great shows this year, but honestly, my favorite show this year was their most recent big show with the casket match and the whole deal. They really knocked it out of the park. So props to everybody up your way, man. Like, you guys have really, especially this year, in the past few years. What can you tell us about IWC? What do you see going on up there? Because they have a super professional product. The production looks great. Top tier athletes. What can you tell us about the locker room atmosphere, the just what can you tell us about IWC?
It's growing every year. The challenges keep getting more intense. The rookies that keep coming in get more intense. Even in the women's division, Lexis Sin, I'd be a little worried to get in the ring with her. I've seen her train. But the locker room atmosphere, I have to say, everyone kind of keeps to themselves. Everyone minds their own business. And it's more of a brotherhood, camaraderie among a lot of the wrestlers. So they're always looking out for each other. They're always trying to find a way to better each other. And then there are some that are just, you know, they want to get out there, kick ass, and take names. And they're not necessarily there to make friends, but they're not against it either. And it's a locker room I can respect.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I dig it. I love it. So we've been on the scene. How long we been doing this now? A couple years?
I was in training for 2 years and debuted this year in May.
Wow. Okay. So you've got some notches under your belt because I know, I've watched you on IWC. Like I say, 2PW. What can you say has been the crowning achievement thus far?
The fatal four-way match that I just had at 2PW, because not only was I against two of the best rookies that came out of my class, but at the same time, Corey Futuristic, a member of the STDs, never before wrestled him, never trained with him, and I managed to get one up on him a couple times in that match, but he still almost managed to pin me with just one move. So he's definitely a threat to be reckoned with as well. So it definitely took like every notch in my belt to not get pinned by one of those three right away.
Right on. And you guys win at such a pace too. I gotta give you props. The pace was insane in that match. Solid stuff. Are we watching any TV wrestling?
I've been keeping up on WWE lately, and honestly, TNA, with how they're seeming to make headway after so long.
Yeah, they're making a comeback. What brought you back to TNA? What are you liking about it?
Well, I'm not so versed in it anymore, I would say. I'm just surprised that even after a while of their tickets being listed as free, their contract deal was still keeping them going. Still had world-class talent that would put on great shows, but not a lot of people willing to go back to that after the unfortunate age of Vince Russo. But I'm glad to see their stadiums are growing, because that means there's more opportunity for other wrestlers to get a bigger platform and show what they can really do, get into the eyes of WWE and AEW.
No doubt. I think it just came out today. They signed Kushida. They signed somebody a couple days ago. So they're making big signings too. So props to them.
Yes, props to them. I'm very proud to see where they, like, everywhere has gone. Just to think, in 2019, there was only one place to really work, and now there's just so many. There's so many opportunities for people. Like, as much as I love WWE, they're not the be all end all anymore. Someone can make a flourishing career on the indies if they try hard enough.
They sure can. They sure can. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good segue. In a perfect world, let's say 5 years down the road, maybe not WWE, maybe not TNA, but what's some other indies that you've got your eyes on that in a perfect world you'd love to go showcase your talents there?
NWA.
Yeah?
Since I was a kid and I saw old tapes of Dusty Rhodes holding that championship, even though people have said that championship has gotten watered down over the years, I would love to hold that belt in my hands and know as many big stars that have held it. To me, that's a sign that I would have made it to myself.
Hell yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's even more attainable now. You've got AJ Kazana. I think I might be mispronouncing the name, but he's kind of started up his own little subdivision of NWA, bringing in new talent. So if you get your foot in the door there, then you might be on the CW streaming app or wherever they're going to put the show after the controversy. Have you followed the James Mitchell controversy with NWA here recently?
I actually haven't.
Okay. Well, yeah, he. I'm not going to say he cost them the deal because it wasn't. It was something he was told to do. But they had a segment on a pay-per-view where they were all at a table doing coke, and CW saw it and they was like, "Well, I don't know if we're going to be putting you on TV now. You might just be on the streaming app." So, wasn't a good decision on their part. Which I'm all for. Wrestling can be anything you want it to be. Think outside the box. But man, maybe if you have a national TV deal on the line, maybe kind of watch what you're doing.
Yeah, this world is definitely a different place, especially like from the 1990s to early 2000s. You got to be careful when you're working in a profession to where you're always in the public eye, even when you think you're behind closed doors. People will find out.
Yep, you're exactly right. That's some good advice. Even social media, we say it all the time on the show. You never know who's looking at your Facebook or looking at your YouTube. Let's talk about professionalism. What do you think needs to change here on the Indies? What can folks change to make indie wrestling look just a little bit more professional?
I'd say just apply yourself in every aspect, get yourself a good trainer, and treat every indie match as if you're at WrestleMania.
Hell yeah. And I'll give you props. I'll tell you what, I'll give you props. You're one of the few guests that I've had on the show that had their phone in landscape mode and not portrait mode. Or whether it's a webcam on your computer you're doing this with, I don't know. But you've got the full screen, you're not vertical, so that's a step in the right direction. Please turn your phone sideways, fellas, ladies, anybody. Just turn your phone sideways.
Yes, make it easier on the guy conducting the podcast, please.
That's a good way of putting it too. And everybody, since he mentioned it, go get yourself some custom theme music so I can put it on YouTube. Make it easier for the guy on the podcast. Hell yeah, I dig it. What's the plans? What are we looking at? What are we looking to do in 2024? What's the goal?
Well, after we're done with this podcast, I'm going to be releasing a little mashup of my best moments of this year. But since the shows don't start up again for about another 3 months, I'm going to go dark and work on myself because I'm going to come back in a way, let's just say, that no one has seen me before. Because 2024, I plan to release any hell that I can establish. In 2023, you could consider it as me testing my competition, poking the bear, if you will. I've fucked around and, let's just say, found out with a few people. Bulk Nasty, for one.
Mm-hmm.
That match didn't last that long because I just decided to start hammering punches into him to see what he could take. Turns out he could take a lot. So I'm going to come back in a way that is threatening to everybody.
I dig it. That's another good segue. What's some other valuable lessons that you learned this year that you're going to learn from and apply in 2024?
Well, given my history of watching wrestlers, this is common sense. Just because someone's smaller than you doesn't mean they can't whip you around the ring. Just because somebody may be less experienced than you doesn't mean they can't surprise you. So come in expecting anything and everything and be prepared to give your best, not just for yourself, but for the people attending.
I dig it. I dig it. Hell yeah. Let's shit on the fans a little bit. I still got a vendetta against some of these shithead wrestling fans. And I'll give you the background to my story here. The whole Yeet controversy. Jay Uso for a week or two couldn't use Yeet. And these fans attacked a dear friend of mine, Huff Manley, from here in West Virginia. Just bullied the hell out of this guy. What do you have to say about these wrestling fans, these know-it-all wrestling fans? Have you saw them online? Have you encountered them? I'd like to hear your 2 cents.
If you're not in the business, don't speak like you are, because you could be a smart mark and know certain terms, but doesn't know you know how to fully imply them.
Yeah.
For example, I heard Chris Jericho say recently he hates the word botch because it is a live performance of athleticism for people. He compared it to if you're watching hockey and someone starts charging the puck to the net and they dump it and they miss. Did he botch it or did he just miss his shot? Things happen, mistakes get made, and yeah, I don't even like the word botch. Like, if you're not in the business, don't try to talk to me like you are.
Yeah, I dig it. And I tell you, I believe me, I've studied wrestling all my life. I'd like to think I know a thing or two about wrestling, but there were things I never knew until I was in the business. There's still, you know it all, fans don't know all that you think you know. Believe me. So yeah, good point. Good point.
Because we as wrestlers are artists, and at the same time, you could be the most wholesome soul in the world, but any artist worth his salt is kind of vain, and we kind of have to be because that's how we have passion in our craft.
Yes.
So you could say something that you think is just an underhanded insult or a small little dig, and someone could have put a lot of thought into that, and next thing you know, you're nose to nose in the locker room about to fight.
Right. Yep.
So just know your audience in terms of the talent, the people. Just watch what you say, and some people, who gives a shit?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well put. Well put. Hell yeah. Well, let's take it. Let's take it way back since we got the fans out of the way. We're understanding each other here. When did you find wrestling? What was it that when you found it? What was it that kind of set you over and said, "This is my deal here. I love me some pro wrestling."
When I saw the carnage of TLC 2 when I was 5 years old, Edge spearing Jeff Hardy off the ladder, just decimation everywhere, and I knew I wanted to do that to people.
Hell
So I
yeah.
kept so I kept it true to my heart, kept training until I felt I was ready, and then when I walked into the training hall for the first time, they knew that I was going to be a threat.
I dig it. Hell yeah. We did you watch Edge and Christian here? I think it was last week on Dynamite.
I did.
I liked it. I liked it until the end. And usually I don't criticize, but I didn't think the ending was necessary. But that's me. How we feeling about Edge and Christian nowadays? I think they're doing all right for themselves.
Yeah, especially because they were each told they would never do this again. So when it comes to wrestlers that never should have been able to do this again in the first place, that find themselves with a second chance late in their career, it's sort of just they know what the fans would like no matter where they're at. And so whatever they decide to do, because we know they're probably not getting told no, I'm just support their vision and watch what they come up with because Adam's ending the end of his career. And if he wants to do this story with Christian this way, then that's perfectly his choice.
Yeah. And talking about, people we thought may never do it again. Randy Orton just came back from a crazy injury, fusion back surgeries. CM Punk's back in WWE. How do you feel about these two guys being back?
Well, I've always been an Orton fan, and he came back to quote Jim Cornette. He came back looking like the Thing with more rocks attached to him.
Right.
And CM Punk, he said it himself, hell froze over. But I figure it's all good for wrestling. It's getting people talking. All eyes are on products. And WrestleMania this year is going to be one hell of a show.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. WrestleMania is in Philly. That's not too far from you. It's not too far from me. I know in a perfect world, I don't even care if I get in the stadium, but I would like to make it to Philly for WrestleMania weekend. Uh, just all the indie shows and everything. In a, if somebody offered you a spot on a card in Philly, would you try to make it, or what do you think?
Absolutely. I would be stupid to turn down that kind of an opportunity.
No doubt.
I knew I wouldn't be a star out there at the current moment that I am now, obviously, but even a small gig at WrestleMania would be a highlight moment for the rest of my career.
For sure, because I know, shoot, probably the past 10 years, I've been watching all these indie shows that go on around WrestleMania during the weekend. And I mean, that's eyes on talent that you've never seen before. So, speaking of talent that you've never seen before, who's some obscure talent up your way? Because we named the names. Give me one or two that folks should know more about. Keep an eye on them in 2024.
Big Rig Tyler Harrison. He's been around for a while, and I feel he is severely underrated. The man is strong as hell. Keep your eye on the new females of IWC, Pagasa, Lexus Sin. When it comes to Prospect Pro Wrestling, I'm sort of new to that locker room, but just seeing what I'm seeing, there's going to be massive moments in 2024. In VCW that I've wrestled at before, they are putting on more shows than they ever have before in 2024. So also a lot of good talent there that are from other promotions around the area that I would check out as well.
No doubt, no doubt. Now, when you say VCW, are we talking about Victory Championship Wrestling from Beastman?
Yes, sir.
All right, now we're talking. Now we're cooking because believe me, we love us some VCW. It was here on Roni. It was just announced Cowpoke Paul is going to take the place of the Necro Butcher. He's going to tag with Beastman against Madman Pondo and a hero of mine since '98, Big Japan days, Shadow WX. I'm stoked for this weekend show. It looks like it's going to be a banger. But what can you tell me about your VCW experience?
Well, I won my first tag match, tagged up with someone named The Void that I feel you're quite familiar with.
Okay, yeah, small world, that is right. Okay, tell me about it.
We just saw each other and knew that we had something there. So we teamed up that night, caused hell of our own. I ended it with a bro kick. And 1, 2, 3, we left. And we haven't been back since.
Yeah, fair enough. Hope to see you guys back on there, though, because, like I say, I can go on all day about VCW. What was your locker room experience like? Because I know, as far as locker rooms, VCW has been one of the best locker rooms I've been in, but maybe you disagree. What did you see when you was there?
Very welcoming, very open, but at the same time, very respectful of people's privacy. No one really wants to come near anyone that looks like me and Void anyway.
Right.
But if anyone would speak to us, it would be very cordial to not make us angry, and we were able to get everything done professionally.
Is it fair to say the VCW fans in McMecken are different than the fans in IWC and 2PW?
Most definitely. They have a different taste to what they want.
Yeah.
West Virginia crowds are very different than Pennsylvania crowds, as I'm sure you can attest.
Yeah, I certainly can. But you tell me your take on things. Let's compare and contrast these fans.
I've just noticed in West Virginia, they don't get much wrestling in terms of they don't really get big events. Like WWE doesn't come through with any Monday Night Raws. AEW doesn't come through with any Dynamite. So they pop at the experience to have an indie show.
Right.
So in West Virginia, you could do so much as a headlock and you'll start getting cheers. But in Pennsylvania, that's not going to fly. We've had some of the best indie wrestling in the country. So you got to come ready to play because these people have seen everything. So you got to pull every trick you have out of your hat if you want to stay in the game in Pennsylvania.
I'm glad you said that. I am, because it helps me understand the 2PW crowd a bit. I've been a little harsh on them in the past because I've seen some banger matches in 2PW, and those fans are kind of sitting on their hands. They livened up a little bit Friday night when I was watching the show. But I'm glad you kind of put things into perspective for me. A lot of those fans, they've seen them come and go. They've seen a lot. But there's been, like I say, there's been some banger matches where I was like, what are these fans doing? And not just 2PW. The shows at the Galleria Mall outside of Pittsburgh, they just combined two feds up that way. But, yeah, the fans kind of they pay their money, but they sit there and kind of watch like a Japanese crowd. Have you been privy to that? Have you seen what I'm talking about?
I've heard it more so being backstage,
Hmm.
but at the same time, the wrestlers that would be in question in that match, they probably felt that they could put on the same kind of usual match, and that kind of thing just doesn't fly. Like, sure, you have your trademark moves that you use, but they want to see something different. If the month before you jumped off a ladder through two tables on somebody and you do it again, they're kind of like, they're doing it again.
Hmm.
So you gotta, like I said, pull every trick out of your hat, get creative, put your thinking cap on. Because if you want to stay in these people's good graces, you have to make sure that they're paying their money to get entertained. And I don't know about you, but you can only watch the same show so many times before you just get bored.
Yep. No, that's a very good point. That's a very good point because as you were saying that, I was kind of picturing the matches and the people that were in the matches when the fans did seem to be sitting on their hands. And yeah, it was just the same old, same old. You're exactly right. So what can we do? What can we do to switch things up? Give us some examples. What can we do to get these fans to react?
You just gotta think about your character, what you can do physically, because if you try to think of something that you can't normally do, odds are you're gonna fail at it. For example, I can do some of the things that Matthew Yeager can do, but I can't do them nearly as well. So if I'm in a match with him, I'm going to focus my offense on how to clip his wings. I'm not going to try to match him in his own wheelhouse
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
he is my ultimate competition on these indies. I will always look at him as a mile marker to keep up with.
Hell yeah. And I tell you what, in a perfect world, in 2024, I'd like to get you both down here, let you guys settle things in an EIW ring. I don't know if you saw the product yet. We're only one show deep. We got our next show this Friday, but if that's something you'd be open to and he'd be open to, I'd like to get you down here in West Virginia and get a little crazy.
Oh, I'm always down to kick a spider monkey's ass.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Oh man, let's see. Where do we go? Well, we're talking EIW, so that we can segue into death matches. What's your opinions on the current death match scene? Are things going too far? Are you a fan of it? Give me your 2 cents.
I was never really a huge fan of it because I believe ECW and old New Japan Pro Wrestling really set the bar for what those matches should be.
Mm-hmm.
And they know how to get reactions in bad/good taste. But for example, the Swerve Strickland Hangman Page match that just happened,
Yeah.
the drinking blood spot, and this is coming from me, completely unnecessary.
You didn't like it, huh? No.
It
Okay.
was like, it's not that I wasn't shocked, but like that was just something that didn't need to happen with all the brutality that they already had going on. It was just sort of sprinkles that didn't belong on the dessert in question, so to speak.
Okay. Okay.
And certain death matches I don't like. Like, for example, I'm not dissing him as a talent, but and his name is escaping me at the moment, which is embarrassing. But he was like, I don't know, he robbed a bank or
Nick
something, cuts people.
Gage.
Yes, Nick
Yeah.
Gage.
Uh-huh.
Some of his matches are ridiculous, in my opinion, but at the same time, he's making money to do what he does, so he's obviously doing something right. So I'm not even going to say anything else. But you'll never see me jumping down, like smashing my nuts off fluorescent light tubes.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll let you and the audience in on a little secret. I don't even know what possessed my dad to tell me, but he said, if you look down the road, there's a guy with about 50 light tubes in his driveway. So I think I'm going to commit a crime tonight. So we got some light tubes for Friday.
Hey, I won't tell anybody.
Well, I mean, I'm putting it out there for thousands to see on YouTube, but you got to do what you got to do to make the show go on. Holiday Hell death matches Friday. What about
Absolutely.
What about no ring death matches? That's been going on here in Pittsburgh now. Even happening here in West Virginia. We've had our first few shows. How do we feel about those?
You said no ring death matches?
Yeah, we're just getting together in a bar. We're going to have some punk bands play, and in between the punk bands, we're going to beat each other with light tubes, put each other through some tables, but there's no ring.
Well, that's definitely different, and it'd be an experience that I've obviously never had before, but I can't try to keep my mind open for all possibilities. So, should a moment come up and the money's right and the talent is right and they want to beat my ass, I want to beat their ass, let's get us some weapons and let's have some fun.
There you go. Yeah, I dig it. Because I got to admit, when it started a few years ago, I was like, it's not wrestling if you don't have a ring. This is crazy. But that was until they started evolving, and I've been lucky enough to attend some shows, film some, and I've become a fan. So I definitely, even if you don't go wrestle in one, go check one out. We're talking about music. See, I'm segueing left and right. What kind of music you listening to nowadays?
I've been into the metal scene a lot more because I kind of fell off of music and started, well, not all music. I just went back to classic rock because all new metal that was coming out was sounding the same.
Right.
It didn't have soul. But now with Peyton Parrish doing some of his own metal stuff and not covers, from Ashes to New making headway, from just all these new artists coming up with different sounds, it's reinvented my love for metal music.
Hell yeah. Good, good. Hey, man, that's what keeps the world turning, man. You need something new, something to get the blood pumping. So good stuff, good stuff. What are you using right now for your theme song?
Cyberhex by Motionless in White.
Okay.
When I fully developed Adam Hex, they released that song that day. So I figure, hey, they're speaking to me.
Ah, it's crazy how that stuff works. Have you had any other scenarios similar to that, to where it's like the wrestling gods just made this happen? It has to be.
Yes, because Hex has a definition that I won't even get into right now until a much later time when I'm ready.
Okay.
But when I was coming up with the name, I couldn't figure out the full name. I knew Adam just spoke to me, but I visited Salem, Massachusetts during Halloween and walked into this store called Hex Spells and Witchcraft. And just walking around, this witch that worked there, a legit witch, gave me this trench coat with a bunch of runes sewed into it. And then as I left, she sort of enchanted me with this weird dust. I couldn't really explain it. Wished me good fortune and tucked a brochure in my pocket. Didn't think about it. Left wearing her runic jacket. And then later on, I pulled it out of my pocket and the word hex just stared back at me.
Really?
Yep. So, almost in honor of her giving me the inspiration, I went with Adam Hex.
That's dope. I like it. Hell yeah, man. It's crazy how things work out. That's wild. I like it. I appreciate you sharing that with us, because it's all about the origin stories. Just, it's crazy how things work, and I'm sure they work the same in basketball or rock and roll or whatever the genre may be. But it's just crazy some of the things you see happen and how they click in wrestling. So that's good stuff.
Certain stuff, it feels right. And if it's rolling correctly, you don't want to fight against it to try to create something. You're like, maybe. It's like, no, go with your gut instinct. The worst that you can do is be told no, and listen to the vets. If the vets are giving you advice, good, solid advice, even if you're not going to use it, for the newer talent out there, don't be a dick. Take the advice, say thank you, walk away.
No doubt, no doubt, because I mean, that's one thing that gets me. These guys are taking their time out of their day to give you this advice. It can hurt. Let's look at the flip side of things. Have you ever known something was right and you felt it in your gut and you rolled with it, and then boom, it turned out to be wrong?
Yes, because believe it or not, I'm moving on from something I used to say because I realized there was something better and I didn't want to get sued, honestly.
Hmm.
I was advised with a catchphrase I used to use, which I will not say, that it was too closely related to Sting because it had crows in it.
Okay.
And I respect Sting. He was one of the first wrestlers that inspired me and knew I wanted to use face paint.
Hmm.
So I've honestly, it slipped my mind he used crows. And I'm not wanting to get sued by one of the biggest legends in the business. So I moved on from that.
Ah, okay. I dig it. I feel it. And I think that's there's probably some respect in there as well, the respect you have for Sting because it's Sting. Hey, who's going to be his last opponent? Who's going to be the match in January at Revolution? Who do you think's going to and if you were booking it, who would be the final opponent for Sting?
My answer isn't going to be well received just because of their ages, but I'm still bitter that Sting and Undertaker were in a WWE company at the same time, slightly past their prime, and we didn't get that match.
Right.
But the fact is, Undertaker is signed to a lifelong contract with WWE, so we will never get it. So honestly, as long as it's just somebody that has history with Sting, that would make people tune in to buy and to make him look good just as much as he'd make them look good, I'll be happy.
Right on. Right on. Yeah. I'm starting to worry it's going to be Flair. I don't hate Flair like everybody else does. I don't, but I just don't see a banger coming out of Sting and Flair. I'm sorry.
I don't hate Flair, especially not because of the newer stuff that came out of people just being offended that he was being Ric Flair in the early days. Sure, he did something that was messed up, but it was already handled.
Yeah.
So back when I started watching, Evolution was at its peak, and I was just more so into Batista, Orton, and Triple H. Flair, I could respect what he did for the business in every aspect, but he just wasn't a wrestler that captured my imagination. I was more, Undertaker, Abdullah the Butcher, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and then when you move on to like the newer age, Edge and Christian, the Hardys, Kane, like just all different icons in their own respect. Just Flair was outside what captured my interest of the pretty boys sort of womanizing money that just didn't capture me.
No, I dig it. I dig it. Whenever I started watching wrestling, that was back in '91, right when he had hopped over to WWE with the WCW belt, and I didn't get what all the hype was about. But of course, I was a young kid, didn't know his history, didn't see the crazy long matches with Steamboat and all the good matches. I respected him over time, but I. For his own safety, I hope he doesn't do another match because he about died in that last match.
When you take a nap in your last match, I say you shouldn't have had one, but the Shawn Michaels match, even to Ric Flair, was his official retirement match. But if you're going to have any kind of match after that, I'm at least glad it was a tag match.
Yeah, imagine if that was a singles. That would have been rough.
Because Ricky Steamboat, honestly, today, he looks like he could still go for a 12 to 15-minute match.
Yep.
But Ric Flair, not so much.
No, I mean Flair was heck. He was in a coma for a minute, and he's got a pacemaker. Please just stay out of the ring, Rick. Please.
Because Triple H is still in great shape, but he has a pacemaker, and he realized that his wife and children are more important than one more go in the ring.
See, there's a touchy subject. You love wrestling with all your heart, but you got the wife and kids at home. Where do you draw the line?
I'd say it just gets down to the bigger picture. Even if your kids are telling you, do it, and your wife is confirming she wants you to do it, no one knows your body better than you. If you feel you couldn't give your full performance for what people would expect out of you, and you would just be almost a parody of yourself and also risk your life, and you're already set for life money-wise, you would just have to tell your family, look, I would love to, but there's just certain things that don't need to be done.
Yeah. Because I'll admit, man, he had me fooled with the vignettes and the training videos. I was like, whoo, Flair's going to go in there and kick some ass. And no, didn't actually pan out that way.
Hey, he managed to draw in a certain amount of house for his last match, but he's had like 3 or 4 last matches here. So when Flair still has the respect that he does have among some of the wrestling community, if not a lot of it, I'd say one more match would absolutely just, this might be ignorant of me to say, like being a rookie, but in my lack of knowledge of the deep aspect of the business, but I'd say he'd become almost a laughing stock to his peers if he had a fourth last match.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah, time will tell. Time will tell. They say never, and definitely never say never with Ric Flair.
Because he won't let you say it.
That's right. That's right. And hey, man, if anybody's earned the right to not let you say it, it's Rick by God Flair. So we'll give him that.
31-time world champion. He has the right to say what he wants.
And man, the schedule back then was insane. Not just him. You gotta give Hogan his due. Piper, the whole. These guys were working 5 days, sometimes the whole week. Like, I don't know. Do you think you could do that? You get signed to a WWE contract and you're a different town every day wrestling, sometimes 2 shows a day.
That's one thing about myself that I have in common with Brock Lesnar is on a Pat McAfee podcast, he even said he's awkward as fuck. And I wouldn't say I'm as awkward, but after a certain amount of exposure, I need to go away. I need to get away from everybody. I need to just be by myself in a dark room with quietness. I can't be bombarded all the time, but at the same time, if WWE comes calling, I would have done it. But now Triple H taking over, as Randy Orton just stated on Logan Paul's podcast, that Triple H knows the importance of family. So he'll make sure that you're home for that birthday or the birth of your child or a wedding or a funeral. Like, he doesn't want people to stay on the road 310 days a year.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Shoot, I just read something earlier today that Sami Zayn, he's taking time off for personal reasons. I guess the injury's not as bad as what they played it up to be, that he asked for time off, so, and hey, that's one of Triple H's boys, so good. I'm glad he's looking out for him. I'm glad the culture's changing.
Yes, and Sammy has done so much for the business over the past even just 2 or 3 years alone with his involvement of the bloodline. Like, people were saying that he was so underrated and that he didn't get chances, and he was underrated and didn't get chances. And when he got given the chance to shine, he was shining brighter than Roman Reigns, I believe, at some points. So he knew that he probably got as big as he was going to get. And if he was going to take time off to be with his family and appreciate his life, he's earned the right to.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, hey, he got that match at Elimination Chamber. I wasn't sure that Roman Reigns was going to walk away with the belt, so that speaks volumes. He got the main event night 1 of Mania with Kevin Owens, his best friend. So good for Sami, man. Nobody was happier than me. Probably Sami Zayn, but I was super happy for the dude.
Yes, that was a wholesome moment and a moment that'll live on in wrestling for a long time. And Sami worked his way up from crowds of 400 people, what I'm working now, to being in front of over 80,000 people shouting his name. So he did things right.
No doubt. Good on Sami Zayn. Hell yeah. Adam Hex, we're in the final 10 minutes of the podcast, believe it or not. In the final 10 minutes, I give everybody the opportunity to slang some merch, slang your socials, and at the same time, if there's any words of advice or words of wisdom or anything you want to bitch about, anything, I don't care what it is, anything you want to put out into the ether, the platform's all yours, my man.
Well, we're in the process right now of getting a lot of merch done. Like the Queen that was at my IWC performance, the last show of the year, Pittsburgh Classic, she has started making merch for all the little children of the void that want to embrace my message, my image. T-shirts, hoodies, thermals, beanies, like action figures, anything that people would want. All they have to do is message me She controls the social media. She will get back to you with price listings, and she's working on a website currently to make it easier for people to where they don't have to message my page. She's working on posters, paintings. She's a talented freak of nature. And when I saw her just looking so dark and elegant, I knew that she was mine. And she's the one who helps inspire a lot of what I do. She keeps me going. I have a son on the way, a
Congrats.
little, thank you, a little Hellraiser that we're going to be raising. So there's that.
Hell
Things to
yeah.
bitch about.
I'm happy
Not
for you.
much.
Not just for the merch and everything. Obviously, she's got the merch, but it sounds like you're happy. You found the one. Things are looking good for Adam Hex, huh?
Absolutely. And in terms of things to bitch about that you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have much other than, as I've said a couple times in this podcast, Matthew Yeager, I haven't pinned you yet, but I will because you have kicked me enough times to where I am pissed off. So be ready for 2024 because I'm coming for your ass.
No doubt. Oh man. I don't know, man. That dude. I mean, he survived getting struck by lightning, so it's what I hear at least.
He moves like he's been struck by lightning, a little Energizer bunny spider monkey.
Well, I tell you
But
what. Go ahead. Go ahead. What was you gonna say?
I would say, but he keeps me going. So at the same time, I appreciate him, but I appreciate getting pissed off by him, if that makes any sense.
No, no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. We're gonna have the Ronies at the end of the year, our year-end awards. We're gonna have Best Wrestler of the Year, Podcast Guest, Match of the Year. So let me run them by you while we got these final few minutes. Adam Hex's personal wrestler of 2023, as far as the Indies are concerned, who would you have to give it to?
Out of everyone that I've seen make headway and overcome certain challenges, I would have to give it to Duke Davis
Hell yeah.
because I'm not going to go too far into it because it's not my business. I usually don't feel bad for people, but through the sudden loss of his wife, may she rest in peace, through the understanding he's going to be a single father, to opening up an organization to honor his late wife, only to come back and take IWC by storm for the loudest reaction it has ever received, to keep going and find success, to come back looking better than ever, to being on AEW television. Duke Davis is definitely on the top of my list for success in 2023, just with an unfortunate loss that he never should have suffered.
Exactly. Yeah, man. I'm glad. I'm glad you brought his name up. I wanted to make sure I worded that correctly because, yeah, truly, man, God bless him. And like you said, a hell of a reaction. Dude's still grinding. Stronger man than I guarantee you that. Promise you that. What about a match of the year? What's the best match you've seen in 2023 as far as the Indies go?
That's a hard one because I'd have to decide between individual tag team matches. I watch my teachers very closely because you never know when I might show up. And when I watch Dime and Nystrom work, it's like magic. It's like I knew that I found the two right trainers because they work together so seamlessly. They get shit done. They walk away with gold and they're never without spotlight. So I got to give it to not one individual match, but Money Shot. I've seen the best matches out of.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hell yeah. Okay, we'll throw one more at you. What about female talent? Who's the best female on the Indies in 2023?
Katie Arquette, without question, not just because she's my trainer, but because I've seen her on Monday Night Raw. I've seen her stomp any woman that comes into the ring, whether it be in AIW, IWC, no matter where she goes, she is finding success. And I know that one day she's going to end up in the big time. So when I see her wrestle, that's why I requested her personally as a teacher. I am just hypnotized by her skill at her young age.
No doubt. No doubt. Good pick. Hell yeah. all great picks. You're giving folks the due that definitely deserve their due, in my opinion. What do I know? I'm Spooky Lou. But I'll give you the chance. Any final words for the audience? Anything else you want to put out there before we wrap this bad boy up, Adam Hex?
If you think you're a smart mark, you're really not. If you're paying the money to watch the show, respect the talent, sit down, enjoy yourself. Don't be a tool. And if you're a new rookie coming in, as I said earlier, just pay your flowers, listen to your vets, and make sure that you don't stiff shot anybody and not expect a receipt in return.
Hell yeah. Good advice. Good advice. I love it. It's been another fun one. Adam Hex, I'll ask you to hang on the line with me. To the listeners and the viewers, this is why we do it. Fascinating folks, fascinating stories. It's been another banger, of course. Stay tuned. This Friday, EIW Reindeer Games coming at you from a secret location. Message the Facebook page to get the location if you want to come out. And we got the Ronies coming up, the end of the year awards. Voting is going on right now. I'll put a link in the description so you can go vote for your favorites. In the meantime, it's the holiday season. For the love of God, be kind to each other. Treat each other with kindness and respect. And go out there and live your dreams. You never know. You might be sitting at home talking to a spooky man in the mask and finding all about their life. And you'll say, well, that dude's all right in my book. Stay tuned. Take care of each other. I love you. We'll see you on the next go round.